Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Class E podcast. I'm your host, Mary Sturgill, the Furman Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship faculty fellow and instructor in the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. We want to thank you for joining us today. This podcast is brought to you through a partnership between Furman Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. And today, we welcome the recently appointed Chief Innovation Officer here at Furman and the Executive Director of the Furman Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and periodically my podcast co-host and my boss, one of them, Anthony Herrera. Anthony, welcome.
Hey, Mary, thank you.
I was like, that
was a long introduction, right? You know, a lot has happened since we've last chatted.
I know.
So great to be back.
I'm glad you're back, yeah.
I think I did a few of the first podcast episode. How many were we in?
Yeah, we did the first podcast episode. We did another one to jump off season 3. Now we're jumping off season 4. Can you believe it?
Season 4. How many episodes is that total?
Oh my, let's see. That's a good question. It's about 8 episodes each. So we've done 30, 40 episodes so far.
That is amazing. 3 years in to the Institute's life.
Yeah.
Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and we have 40 plus episodes.
And
That's
the
amazing.
podcast is 2 years old. So so we came on 2 years ago. That's amazing when you think about that.
And there's still so many more stories that need to be told
God.
about the Furman family.
Yes. I mean, we even just last night we were at Greenville Starts, and I was sitting in the room and I was like, oh my God, there's so many stories here, because I'm always tuning in to folks' stories, and we're going to tell them, folks. But
talk about inspiration, right?
Yes. Oh my God, amazing. So inspirational. And we're going to bring all of those stories to you. But today we're going to talk about the story of Furman Innovation and the changes that we have going on and all of the programs that we have going on. In one of our recent podcasts, we talked to Brian Davis, who was the managing director, and he talked about some of the programs. But Anthony's here to kind of give us the big picture and the big plan, the big vision. And so let's just start there. Let's talk about your new position and what that entails.
Look, I love it. You're going to stay to the track of the script, right?
I'm going to try.
I'm trying to keep you off.
Anthony tries his best all the time to get me off of my points.
It's what we do, right?
Right, exactly. But I want to make sure that we cover the points so that every one of you guys understands exactly what we're doing here at Furman and how you can get involved.
Absolutely, I love it.
Let's talk about your newly appointment.
New hat, right? It's a new hat that I'm putting on here.
On top of all the others.
So Chief Innovation Officer, we're still figuring that out.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. I think it's such a critical time in higher ed.
Yeah.
We all know that, especially after the last year and a half of what's going on, and because of that, it's a transitional time and transformational opportunity for Furman University. For sure. Right. And so we have all these converging waves happening all at one time, with post-pandemic, the questioning of the value of higher education, the pressures to deliver more value, right?
For the buck, for sure.
For the buck, right? Reduce, but not increase tuition necessarily. And,
right.
and some folks are even asking them to reduce tuition, right? So it's balancing all that.
And this comes on the heels of the pandemic and universities across the country losing money.
Right.
Big dollars.
And so, what does that mean for a university to constantly be thinking about every day, what is coming around the corner, right? What's the future look like? How are we staying relevant and impactful and true to our mission of lifelong learning and impact? But then as well as making sure that we can make this sustainable for the long haul, right? It's one of the greatest institutions, right? Higher ed, and impacting our world. And so it's not going anywhere, but we've got to make sure it doesn't lose ground on the impact it can have, right?
And that's your job.
Not all of my job, right? Maybe a good percentage of it is to kind of keep thinking about what are those opportunities, right? When you think about the university, it has multiple assets, right? And some of those assets we just haven't even explored of fully utilizing and maximizing, whether it be for delivering more value for students, even expanding what we think of a student, not just our day student here on campus or traditionally day student, but thinking about a lifelong learner, right? So our alumni, our families, our parents, our community members, and our OLLI, right? Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Right. And so what are the assets we have on this campus, and are we deploying them to increase value? But then also one of the things that comes alongside of that is alternative revenue streams, right? And how do we explore those opportunities so that we can supplement not only our traditional revenue streams of tuition revenue and philanthropy.
Right. So a lot of where we focus or you, I should say, I say we because I'm part of Furman Innovation as the faculty fellow, but a lot of what we focus is on the programs that we produce. And like, for instance, this summer, we just finished the boot camp. So I want to go through some of those programs because I think podcast listeners, what you're going to hear is that we have a program for someone at any level of their interest in being an entrepreneur. So
Absolutely.
let's maybe just start with the boot camp.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're right. So my other hat, which is my I call my day job, is being the executive director of the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. You know, our mission, right, is to develop innovative and entrepreneurially minded leaders.
Yes.
Right. Grow a culture of innovation here on the Furman campus and then contribute meaningfully in the local and regional ecosystem. Right. And so to your point, what are those different pathways or on-ramps for individuals to engage with us and to grow and to be developed into innovative leaders? And one of our signature program is the Summer Business, and now we call it the Summer Business and Innovation Boot Camp, right? It used to be Summer Business and Entrepreneurship Boot Camp. We kind of broaden it because what we're learning is that all of us are being called to be innovative, entrepreneurial-minded leaders, right? It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to start a venture, right, and be self-employed or create our own company. Right. Sometimes it means we're going to go work for an organization, and we are being asked to drive innovation, right, and to be entrepreneurially minded and flexible and adaptable. And so that's our mission, right? And so
yeah, I'm raising my hand like I'm in church or something.
I give you a high five right there.
High five, because I tell my students this all the time. Even if you don't, because I teach digital storytelling here, even if you do not own your own business, you will be called upon because of what you know and your experience here at Furman. You will be called upon, I just got goosebumps talking about this, to bring some innovative ideas to the company for which you work.
100%. And that's what's going on, right? And that's our mission, right? If we
really did get goosebumps.
I love it, yeah. What we're trying to do is equip and empower our students, right? And for the boot camp, that is targeting college students, right? And recent graduates with the foundations and fundamentals of business, finance, accounting, marketing, entrepreneurship, career accelerating strategies, and innovation, design thinking. And so all of those are equipping our students to go out and either one, drive innovation within an organization, an existing one, or start their own. Right. And that's so critical, right? That's the new workforce. Right. And in a time that our workforce is even moving faster to contractors and self-employed, we're probably all going to be at some time in our lifetime self-employed. Right. Hopefully not unemployed. Right.
Hopefully
if we do our job well, they won't be unemployed.
Right. So we have that for the college students. And then I want to talk about the pitch competition because that's also for our students and not just Furman students though, right?
Well, the exciting thing we did this year was we added a track for alum. Right. Yeah. And so again, it's expanding this idea of the lifelong learner and what we define as a student. So we have the Paladin Pitch Competition, which is a culmination of students over the year pitching their ideas to our institute, going through a series of workshops to refine their idea, refine their business plan, and refine a pitch, and then they compete to be a finalist. All right. So we had 6 finalists this year, and one finalist slot was reserved for alumni. Right. And so we had several alumni submit their venture, submit their pitch, and vie to compete. And that individual, David, actually was a finalist and won second place. Yeah. Right. So, okay, great. They win funding. Right. But that's not really the whole value. The whole value is the whole process they went through over the several weeks to prep for that, right? They're learning great communication skills. They're learning problem-solving skills. They're learning how to work and to refine a message, right? So what you call storytelling, right? That's such a key skill set, right? All of us are being asked to pitch an idea daily, several times a day in our life, and we don't know it. And those of us who can master that skill and do it well are going to be employed, right? Are going to have impact and are going to have the greatest impact in our communities and in our world.
When I go out into the community and I talk to especially PR firms, because we deal a lot with PR firms and marketing firms, and I ask them what's the skill that students need to come to you with. And that is the number one skill that they say is they need to learn how to pitch an idea thoroughly. Right. And so that's the same reason why I have my students pitch all of their story ideas in all of my classes. Right, that you have to justify to me why this is a potential story that we should allow you to do.
And what I love about that
and
is
carries over.
It carries over, and it's so critical because I think people say, well, it's just a sales skill, or it's more to it, right? It's about listening.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? You got to listen. You got to understand your audience. Who are you talking to? What are their needs? What are they perceiving as value? And then delivering that, right? And I think that's really the value of sales and pitching and storytelling.
Yeah.
Is really the listening component that comes on the front end.
Right. So last night you said something in the Greenville Start session that we had about, or recently, maybe it wasn't last night that you said this, but you said something about changing momentum into a movement. I want you to explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, I love that. So, I arrived here about 3 years ago, almost to the day, and it was starting from scratch. Right. In fact, I remember when I came, we didn't even have an office on campus for me. Right? They didn't even know where they were going to put me. Right. I didn't have a phone. I didn't know what my email was. I mean, it was literally starting from scratch. Right. And then you think about over the last 3 years, we have a rock star team. Mm-hmm. We have programs, signature programs that are developing and equipping students, with our mission and objective. And we're having an impact in the community. Right. We are now a lead convener in Greenville and in the Upstate and even into the state wide to an extent. And so I shared at our team retreat just 2 weeks ago was, okay, we have great momentum. Right. And we're doing great things, but it's now we need a transition. We're in this breakout year, I called it, right? Yes. Where we need to transition that momentum to a movement, right? Where we are going to make this solidified in our campus culture, right? Yes. That's what we want. We want if we do our job well, right, as an institute, we shouldn't need an institute anymore for innovation and entrepreneurship. It will be a part of our DNA, right? And the students that come here and attend here, whether it's our day students or our community or alumni, they will be equipped with this and just all the tenets of what makes an innovative and entrepreneurial-minded leader is everyday life, from our faculty, staff, and students, and all the way outside.
It becomes innate at that point, almost. Yeah.
So
that's the goal.
Do we know the answer? No, that was part of what we're talking about.
So how do you get there?
Right. And so it's like every day let's do one thing that's going to help us get to that point, right? Where we're moving it to a movement, right?
Right. I love that. So we talked about boot camp. We talked about the pitch, which, by the way, last pitch was really, really good, but it was affected by Zoom. But the pandemic.
We did it through Zoom.
We did it through Zoom. Thank you for that correction. We've been teaching on Zoom for so long, it's in your brain. See, that's what happens when it becomes innate, and that's what you say. But it was also the largest pitch competition in the history of South Carolina, yeah?
Well, the one in person, the previous year was, right? And that was in person, attended. It was the largest attended pitch competition. And so we were going into this last year, right? And we were like, okay, how do we top that? Right. And I know we don't want to,
especially since you can't be together because of COVID. Yeah.
And we don't want to get into the game of like, how do we just increase the number every year?
No, of course.
You know, but what we do, that is a measure of changing the culture, right? Because if you're offering this program and people want to come and sit in the audience because they're getting inspired and they are feeling like they're a part of it. And so, but the pandemic affected in that we had to deliver it through Zoom, and we still had, I think it was 380 folks sign up and attend the Zoom. So that's great.
That's
right?
really good.
And what was valuable in that, or telling in that, was that this wasn't like at the start of the pandemic. This is at the tail end when people were zoomed out, right?
We were so zoomed out.
Right. Nobody wanted to sign on a Zoom anymore. And we were still able to draw that audience. Majority, it was probably 50-50, 50% students and 50%, community alumni and parents. And so that was exciting to say that, hey, people see the value in this. They're getting inspired by these ventures, and they want to be a part of that. They want to be part of this community.
I think the other good thing that we've done in building that community is we've helped students start a student organization, FUSI, Furman University
Student Entrepreneurship
Thank
Association.
You.
FUSI, I love it. Yes, they came up with the name. Disclaimer: they came up with the name.
They did, yeah. So one day I was like, FUSI,
exactly.
But FUSI, they're doing a really good job so far, and they're really new.
So I love to tell you a story about that because, when I first came here and I asked the administration, when we launched, I said, what would be a measure of success? And they're like, start an entrepreneurship club.
Yeah.
Right. We're 2.5 years in, and that's when we started the entrepreneurship club, right? In essence, we were laying the foundation of programs and a culture so that when we started the entrepreneurship club, it would be vibrant, right? So we started in February, again, in the pandemic at our university when all activities had to be virtual.
Yes.
Probably not the best timing, but we did it anyways, right? First meeting, 28 people show up.
Yeah.
28 students. Right. So that just showed right off the back, there is a hunger and an interest for this. And we're going into this academic year with a lineup of programs, already officers elected, ready to create this movement, right? And create really a platform for students to pursue their ideas, right? In fact, I was just talking to a parent and a student this morning, and he said, well, what if my son doesn't have an idea? That's a great come. I said, look, we're on a spectrum here, right? The spectrum on one side, you have students who are already entrepreneurs. They have a venture. Right. And then in the middle, you have some who don't, but they're seeking that idea to start something. And then you have, on the opposite side of the spectrum, is you have some, I don't know if I ever want to be an entrepreneur in the traditional sense, but I want to be around those people, right? I want to be inspired and I want to contribute. Right. And that's what FUSI is about, right? It's going to be capturing the attention for everybody on that spectrum.
Right. And they'll be doing some programming over the course of the school year. The other thing that I think is important right there that you kind of brought up is that even if they don't have an idea, if you sit around with other people and you kind of soak up their energy and their ideas even, then eventually you're going to have an idea.
Right. One of the greatest entrepreneur, I think, is you don't even need an idea. Just steal somebody else's and make it better. Right? I was joking. I was like, dude, come to our...
add to it. Yeah.
Add to it. Like, I think about
that's how patents work.
Disclaimer here, Mary. This, I don't come up with anything new. Right. I just go around the country, around the globe, and see what other universities are doing and say, okay, what's working, what's not. Right. And then can we take that and can we adapt it and can we make it better, right? So we're like the 3M of innovation and entrepreneurship centers around the globe, right? We're just taking what somebody else is doing and let's make it better.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us to the fact that we now have only 2 years in or 3 years in, we now have other universities who are following our kind of template that we've created, or I should say you've created.
Yeah, it was a team. We have a rockstar team, right? We got 4 full-time, 4 part-time team members from faculty and staff. But when you think about it, it kind of just caught us off guard, right? We just set out, we developed a strategy. Mm-hmm. And we started executing on it, and we found ourselves 1.5 years into that strategy, or last year, submitting for an award, right? For this global recognition
from the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers.
So for Outstanding Entrepreneurship Center in 2020. And, there are some folks that are like, don't apply, you're not even there, you're crazy. Right. And I was like, no, we're doing great things. Like, we're having an impact. We have momentum. Right. We got the momentum. And we won. We were recognized, right? So we're there. And in fact, I had a university call us last week. It was a rock star university, right? To my perception is like they're years ahead of us, right? In so many respects, and they lost last year. They submitted the same time and they didn't receive the recognition. And they said, we beat them. We beat them. I won't say their name. I don't want to throw them under the bus there. But it's a really prestigious liberal arts college up in the Northeast. Right. And
everybody probably knows what it is. Or they can look it up.
They can look it up, right? There's enough in the Northeast.
I would be Googling that so fast.
But they're my counterpart over there said, look, we called the Global Consortium Entrepreneurship Center and said, hey, what do we do? What can we do better to get this recognition? And they said, why don't you call Furman? They're rocking it out over there, right? They're doing something. And so that was like, hey, we're on the right track. Right? Do we have all the right answers? No, but that's the whole core of innovation, right?
Exactly.
Let's take an idea. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's iterate it or stop it and try something else.
Entrepreneurs could even use our model of creating the Innovation Institute as a model for them to create their venture.
Yeah, we're...
Because we are a startup.
We are a startup about startups. Yeah. And we're a crazy team, right? I'm sure we are not for everyone, right? And I always tell the team that, right? We're like, hey, look, you're either going to find out right away that you can fit in this organization or you're not. Because
you really like us or you don't.
Because we will drive a type A, structured, black and white type of person crazy because, we might come in on Monday and have an idea and a strategy, all commit to execute it. And then by Wednesday, we're like, that's not working. Let's pivot. Right. And in fact, I think, Elizabeth on our team, remember she sent that meme out. It was the Friends episode where Ross is like, they're carrying up a couch up the stairs and all they keep saying is pivot, pivot, pivot. Right. I feel like that's the story of our institute, right? We're always pivoting. And what are we pivoting to, right? Is how are we delivering our mission,
Right.
and are we adding value to our customer, right, which is students, faculty, staff, alum in the community.
And it's not like we do it willy-nilly. It's very analytical. We look at it, we see what's working, and then we're like, okay, this is not exactly how we had envisioned it. Let's fix that, and let's pivot to fix that.
Right.
Which is, what people should be doing with their business.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's unfortunate because we've seen this firsthand right here in our community, the businesses that through this pandemic that pivoted.
Yes.
Right.
And that pivoted quickly.
There's
a difference.
Thrived.
Yeah. Yes.
And there were some, and this is sad, that didn't, right? They said, oh, we're not going to change our model.
Right.
We're not going to adapt. We're just going to wait this out.
Right.
They're not here with us anymore.
Exactly.
Right. Their space on Main Street's up for lease now.
Yeah. All across America.
America. And so that's the skill set we're trying to develop.
Yeah.
Right. In our students, right? If you engage with us, that's our measure of success. Do you walk away now as a more adaptable leader?
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about this innovation district that's
in
the pipeline too.
Yes, please do. Let's talk about the innovation district. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I know it wasn't on the agenda.
I almost forgot.
I'm going to pivot us.
See, this is an example. This is a pivot, folks.
Add 5 minutes to the podcast. Listeners, if you're listening now, we're going to get 5 more minutes. This is critical. PSA announcement.
Yes. All right. Innovation Center. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So,
or district, I should say.
About 3 years ago, right when I came,
right.
I got an opportunity to meet with one of our board of trustees at the time, Sean Hartness, and he approached me and we went to lunch. And he said, look, I'm building a new company, an innovative company down Poinsett, and I'd love to have an office there for the Institute. I see the vision. I see the opportunity to engage in the community.
Yes.
Would you like that? And I kind of said, no, thanks. And I kind of caught him off guard. And I said, well, he's like, we're going to have a space on campus. And, the Innovation and Accelerator next in Greenville wants us to have space downtown. So I don't know what another
space would be, right? Yeah.
And so we started discussing, well, what should go there, right? And so I had just a week before heard about this concept of an innovation district.
Right.
It's a live, work, play, learn community for innovators, entrepreneurs, creatives. And so we started that journey almost 2.5 years ago, and it's going to go public hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days, maybe when this podcast gets released, and it will be announced on Poinsett Highway through several partnerships with private and public entities on Poinsett, a 7-acre live, work, play, learn community.
Yes.
And the Institute will have their off-campus site will be one of the anchors there.
Yeah.
And so it'll be great. It's going to be a transformational opportunity for Furman, for the community, right?
Yes.
And what it's going to do at the heart of it is bringing the resources across the city, across the state for entrepreneurs to every demographic, right? So let's just be real. There's a lot of resources in this state and in this community, but they're not accessible to everybody, especially underserved and underrepresented demographics.
Absolutely.
This location is going to co-locate them all there and make it available to all of that. And so our hope is that is not only beneficial for our students and our alumni base, but it's going to be transformational for our communities and those that have not traditionally had access to these resources.
Yeah. So when people ask, why is that important? It's important because our students end up working for, interning for, being mentored by these people who are involved with us in these ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
the Furman advantage.
It's the Furman advantage. It's the evolution of adding more value as a university,
right.
And connecting the assets, right? And some of our assets that we have is talent,
right?
Whether it's faculty, staff, or students, and connecting it into the community for internships full time, as well as, maybe they'll stay here and start launch their ventures here.
Right. I'm so excited about that. So when is that announcement going public?
So what are we? We're in August. So I'm hoping, I got a meeting literally right after this, to talk about the PR of it. So hopefully that will go live announcing it next month by September. And then it will the first phase of it, it's a 48,000 square foot building on Poinsett Highway, will come online in the fall of 2022. Open it up. We'll be in there.
We'll be in there.
We'll be recording our next podcast. I'm committing to you. We'll be recording our next podcast in this space.
All right. We'll look forward to it. Okay. So, gosh, there's so much going on. But I want to pivot just a little bit to go into some rapid fire questions that may help our entrepreneurs and may help people in the community understand.
I'll give you rapid answers.
What it is. All right. Yeah. Rapid is the key word here.
Okay. Yes. Stick to the script. Okay. I'm ready.
No. Okay. So what does the future hold?
For
Furman Innovation.
Okay, I was like, for the world.
For you, for the world.
Yeah, you got to give me, that's a lot. You wanted to wrap it, right? Furman Innovation, right? I think this is a breakout year, right? Momentum to movement. What we want to see is, would love to see more students engaged. In fact, in our team retreat, we were bold. We said, in 4 years, right, a student, if we think about their 4-year career at Furman, they shall have an impactful and intentional experience with the Institute. So that's one, right? It's a big bar, but I think we can achieve it.
I think so too.
Second is every faculty across this campus should feel like they have an on-ramp or a pathway to engage with the Institute in multiple ways, right? Whether it's through research, through mentoring, through attending a speaker series, or even launching a partnership like we've done with Communication Studies in this podcast. Yeah. And then third is coming out into the community. Again, we've just launched Greenville Starts last night, right? August 17th. And 25 participants in the community, right? Yeah. Who are going to be given the resources and the education and the training to launch a successful venture. It was
a great experience last night. Speaking of, one of the conversations we had last night was, what is an entrepreneur? So I want you to share your thoughts on that with our listeners. What is an entrepreneur?
I think an entrepreneur is somebody who doesn't accept the status quo, who's willing to learn from their failure, who is willing to try and take risk, try new things and take risk, and somebody who is passionate about a cause or their venture, right? And I think that it's pretty broad, right? Because we always think of a tech entrepreneur, right? But I look at entrepreneurs. I look at you, Mary. You're an entrepreneur. I am, right? Yeah. I look at.
I have the T-shirt to prove it.
You do. I'm wearing the T-shirt to prove it.
Anthony's wearing the T-shirt.
Well, I love it, right? Because these are now getting out into the community.
Exactly, and we're seeing them out.
Yes, my wife was, at the Lego store the other day, and she took a picture of somebody. She goes, "Is this somebody on your team?" Yeah. And I had to zoom in on the picture, and it wasn't, right? Because we don't know who it is. So it was like the T-shirts are getting out in the public, right? And people are wearing them, and they're saying, "You know what? I'm an entrepreneur." Yeah. And it's breaking the mold of what we traditionally think an entrepreneur is, just an app developer or tech person.
Exactly. Okay, so give us one thing that someone can do to keep themselves in an innovation mindset every single day.
Reflect.
I like that. That's not what I was expecting you to say.
No, but when I look at it, and I even try to carve out, I'm sure my assistant drives her nuts because I carve out times in my day and in my week that I literally put on my calendar and I block and I say hold, and I call it innovation. Yeah. I'm sure she's like, what does that mean? You are the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute. But those are times that it just says, okay, I need to put everything down and just reflect. What did we just do today? Yeah. What was those conversations? What was that story that we just shared with an alum, with a parent, with a community member? And what can I learn from that? Right. And what can we do better tomorrow?
I love that. Okay, so one thing that an entrepreneur can do every day, or must do, let me change that word, to must do every day to be successful.
Every day to be successful, I think make your bed.
Make your bed.
Right. It's like, because you can.
From that book, Make Your Bed?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't read it.
I can't remember the exact name of the book, but there's a book that says something about I can't remember exactly the title.
And I think at the core, the message is like, do something and accomplish something that day, even if it's small. Right. Right. And I think when we think of entrepreneurs, we think of innovation, and we think of something transformational.
Huge, right? Yeah.
And everything that is transformational starts with one step. And so that's what it means, right? Just make your bed. Just start with something small, and everything will build on it. And over time, you'll look back in a day, a week, a month, a year, and you'll say, wow, look what we accomplished. And that's, if you look at the Institute, that's what we've done, right?
Exactly.
In fact, I was sitting with a couple of faculty members last week, and they're like, you should write a book about how the Institute has been, built. Right. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, I remember when you came and sat down your first week here, and you kind of shared this vision 3 years ago. And it was like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. Who's this guy?
Who's this guy? Who does this guy
this
think
is not
he
going to
is?
happen, right?
Yeah.
And
he's just a talker.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so, what is it? All show, no substance, right? Or whatever. And so, and they were right. They were right to believe that, right? Because I had nothing to show for it. But I didn't just stop there. I said, okay, let's take one step. Yeah, take one step that day. And so I think that's the key to be successful, is just take one step. And if it doesn't go well, reflect, learn from it.
Exactly. I do that. I reflect, and I have my best ideas actually when I'm meditating.
Yes.
And I use that time to. As a matter of fact,
meditation is just another word for saying reflection, right?
Exactly. So, okay. So one last rapid fire question: when is the best time to start your venture?
today.
Boom.
Yeah, especially, let me tell you this.
I took your boom.
Yeah, boom. I love it. Right. I think actually, the best time's today, but when we think about just, a large part of our audience is students right here.
Right.
And I think, talk about the best time to start. If you're in college.
Oh my gosh.
The risk,
yes.
Your risk tolerance should be the highest it will ever be.
Yep. And
your downside will be the lowest it will be, right? Because let's say we start something today and it goes bad.
So what?
You go to class the next day.
Exactly. You go to
You
class
get to
the
eat in the
next day.
cafeteria and you have a roof over your head because you get to live in the residence hall.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's where I can see us winning in this movement kind of mentality, is that if we have more students starting multiple ventures, nonprofits, for-profits, right? Because if we can create that culture, some of the greatest challenges we're facing in our world today are going to be resolved from those ventures. And so we have to create the platform for our students, and I say students, not only our day students, our alumni, our community,
all of our students, to
take those risks and take those chances.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to start to see change in our world.
Boom.
Boom.
Again.
There we
Boom
go.
again.
I love it. I'll come back.
Yeah. Well,
if I get an invitation.
Absolutely. You're always invited. You're supposed to be the
co-host.
I
know. I feel bad. We launched this together and said we were going to be a co-host. I did the first episode with Mary and then that let her run with the rest.
He's a busy man.
Her voice sounds better on radio.
Oh no, you're doing things that just need to be done, and I wouldn't be here if you weren't doing those things.
Well, and that's the great thing.
None of us
would. You
would
say
be.
what makes an entrepreneur successful? Have a rock star team. We have one of the best teams, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
We're so blessed with all the people.
Not to toot my own horn.
Yes, you are amazing. You are great. Brian Davis, our managing director, is doing phenomenal things in the community. I mean, like reshaping how people are perceiving Furman.
Absolutely, yeah.
In this space, right?
Yes.
Matt, is doing transformational programs for our students. Elizabeth has been telling our story, Elizabeth Marin, through social media and our marketing efforts. Have Angelica Lozano Alonso, a faculty director in the Spanish department, who has been just making headway with helping faculty engage through design thinking. And so it's just been a real awesome opportunity. We'll have Ross McLean coming on as a co-faculty director too. And, and so we have some big things coming up this year. So you'll want me to come back?
Absolutely.
We'll actually have some more stuff that we're doing.
Absolutely. Every time we have anything going on, the best is yet to come. And as a matter of fact, we're, we talked a little bit about the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers. And so we won that award last year. And then this year we're presenting at the conference to talk about the podcast and how we use the podcast to create this ecosystem of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And
3 years.
In 3 years.
We win recognition. Year 3, we're being invited to talk about what we're doing in some of our signature programs, and it's your programs that you've been leading. So thank you to the Communication Studies Department and your leadership.
To our students who are the producers. Yeah.
Emma in the back here, the producer.
Yeah.
So if my voice sounds bad, it's because she didn't edit it appropriately. Just kidding. She does a great job.
Okay, all right. So I want to talk a little bit about something we have coming up. Coming up September 2nd, we have 2 great events that you guys, listeners, can take a part in, and that we're hosting. One is a conversation with Sally Christensen. And if you remember, we had Sally on, I think it was season 2, to talk about her company, Argent, and how it was changing the face of clothing for women in the business world, right? Well, she's actually taking that a step further and really doing some great things and really using her company to almost change some mindsets in a way. And so we're going to have a conversation with Sally here on campus, and I'll sit down and we'll have this conversation. We're going to do a live studio audience taping of that for the podcast, so it will be a future episode.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
it is going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Coming up in season 4, folks, we're going to talk to an entrepreneur who manages the media for stars in the country music industry. She's coming up right in Nashville. She has an amazing story. And then we also have a young entrepreneur who started his own media company, and he helps people host podcasts, and he started a cooking show on YouTube. So he is just a dynamo go-getter, and he only graduated 2 or 3 years ago, I think. So we have a jam-packed season 4 for you. That's just 2 of the people that we have coming up in the coming months. And of course, you'll hear all about Sally's conversation with me from the 2nd. We'll get that out there. And we're always looking for people who think they have something to add to the conversation and want to share their story. So if you want to be on the Class E podcast, just email me at mary.sturgill@furman.edu, and we'll start the conversation there. Or if you want to sponsor the podcast, as well. So
Always be
sponsor us.
selling.
Always be selling. Exactly. You want to be on the podcast or you want to sponsor the podcast. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and learning about everything that we have going on and sharing it with all of our listeners.
It's fun. We're having a lot of fun, and it's an honor to be here. And thanks to work with you and all the work you're doing with the podcast. Emma, thank you behind the scenes producing.
Yeah.
Till next time.
All right. Yeah, that's what I always say. This podcast, remember, folks, is brought to you through the partnership between Furman Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. That is the only way it's made possible, is that partnership between our two departments. This episode is produced by Communication Studies major Emma Kerr, as we have talked with Emma throughout the episode as well. We want to thank you for tuning into this episode of the Class E Podcast. I'm your host, Mary Sturgill. Until next time, everybody, dream big.